Hi, I'm HME News Executive Editor Mike Moran. I'm here today with Jeff Baird, healthcare attorney with Brown & Fortunato in Amarillo, Texas, and we're going to talk about subcontracting as it pertains to Medicare, competitive bidding areas, and outside those areas. Now, Jeff, there is a lot of confusion. There's a lot of talk about subcontracting, but what does it mean, and what are the rules?
Okay, there is some confusion. There is some gray area in the first round. In the first round, there really was not any guidance as far as subcontract was concerned. We had a number of first round winners who were awarded contracts that didn't really know what they were doing, that didn't have the expertise, didn't have the familiarity with a particular city to take care of all the patients that they were supposed to take care of. And so there were a number of companies that decided to enter into subcontract agreements, and there was really no rules as to how to do it, how not to do it.
Because initially in the first round, there was like, well, if you don't have a presence in a competitive bidding area, no problem, bid it, win it, and then subcontract out the business.
Yeah, in fact, the first round was pretty much a fiasco. I guess you could get me going. I get on my soapbox, but the first round, I remember the first day, the first hour that contracts were let out. I received a call from a company in Houston who said, "Mr. Baird, we received the contracts for 9 of the CBAs for mail order diabetic." And I said, "That's great, congratulations." And they said, "But we don't do mail order diabetic, and we've never been in these CBAs," and so they wanted to either subcontract or sell out. Well, here now in round 1.2 or round 1, part 2, the CBIC has come out and has given us some rules and regulations that pertain to subcontractors. Essentially, what the CBIC has said is that you can only subcontract out certain things. For example, the purchase of inventory, for example, repair and maintenance, for example, delivering and putting the equipment up on the patient. Other sort of stuff, such as intake, assessment, interacting with the doc, things of that nature, the supplier has to do itself, cannot subcontract that out. Okay, I can understand that. I mean, I'm not saying I totally agree, but I understand where the CBIC is coming from.
Right.
But let me tell you where it gets a little wacky, and here I'm going to sound Clinton-esque and try and pretty much tell you what the definition of is.
Yeah.
But if you look at MIPPA, M-I-P-P-A, which is the act that delayed competitive bidding, it talked about accreditation for subcontractors. Well, the CBIC has come in but if you read MIPPA, the language of it indicates that only applies to that subcontractors only have to be accredited if they're in a CBA. However, the CBIC has come out and said, no. All subcontract relationships anywhere in the country, they have to be accredited. The subcontractors have to be accredited. Well, I question whether the CBIC even has the authority to say that.
Right.
Because the CBIC is not CMS. The CBIC is Palmetto, which is an insurance company that has a contract with CMS to administer the competitive bidding program. And so while certainly the CBIC can give us some rules and regulations pertaining to the CBAs, I don't think it has the authority to say, oh, by the way, if you're a subcontractor in Des Moines, you have to be accredited. I don't know for a certainty. I've not researched it out, but I certainly have that question. So it's kind of up in the air right now.
Yeah, there really hasn't, and there hasn't been any definitive word coming from CMS, I don't think.
There's been no word coming from CMS. All that we've had has been from CBIC, and even that has been in the open door forums and Q&As.
Right.
That's right.
That's right, because I heard something in a CMA, one of the open door forums, and I thought, I may be not remembering this correctly, but I thought they said subcontracting was just going to, the rules were going to apply to the whole country, inside and outside. Right. But I thought I heard Joel Kaiser or someone say that, but I'm not sure. Did you?
I've not heard that.
No.
And I'm not saying that CMS hasn't said it, but there's certainly been nothing in writing, and the only information that I've seen has come from the CBIC.
Right.
So I guess the long and the short of it is, certainly if if my client is in a CBA, one of the first 9, and wants to subcontract, then no question that the subcontractor needs to be accredited, unless, again, I'm going to be a little bit Clinton-esque, if all the subcontractor does is delivery like a FedEx or UPS, then it does not need to be accredited. If all the subcontractor is doing is repair and maintenance, doesn't have to be accredited. But if On the other hand, of course, if the subcontractor is in fact a Part B supplier, it does need to be accredited.
Yes.
And so we have to deal with this in the CBAs, but the question I have is, for example, I have clients coming to me that have consignment arrangements with sleep labs, say in Des Moines. Well, there are three issues with that. One is kickback, two is Transmittal 297, number three is accreditation. If you set it up correctly, you're okay from a kickback standpoint. It is my opinion that Transmittal 297 doesn't apply to sleep labs.
Which is what? Which transmittal?
I'm sorry, this is the transmittal that CMS came out effective March 1 that effectively says if you have a loan consignment or loan closet or consignment closet or a stock and bill, it's all the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
With a doc or a non-physician practitioner, that goes away effective March 1. Well, it is our opinion that that does not apply to a consignment arrangement with the sleep lab, even if the sleep lab is owned by a doc, if the sleep lab is also an IDTF, which most of them are.
Right.
And so if I have a client that has a consignment arrangement in Des Moines with the sleep lab, then I can look at the arrangement and say, okay, we're fine from a kickback standpoint. We're fitting this within safe harbor. We're okay from a Transmittal 297 standpoint because Transmittal 297 does not apply to a sleep lab, even if it's owned by a doctor, as long as it's an IDTF. But then we have to take a step back and say, well, okay, now, does this sleep lab have to be accredited because this is a subcontract arrangement?
Right.
And that's where it gets kind of wacky because the sleep lab does have to be accredited. It has to be accredited by one of the recognized AOs by CMS, and yet I don't think there are any standards in place for sleep labs by an HQA or a compliance team or something. So it's kind of muddled right now.
Would you say that if you're subcontracting certain services outside of a CBA with a HME provider, do you think that provider would have to be accredited?
Yes, because for the reason that if you're a Part B supplier, just to exist, you have to be accredited.
That's right. If you're going to do any business with Medicare,
yeah,
either directly or as a subcontractor.
Well, even that again, that gets kind of interesting. Let's say that my client wants to subcontract with ABC Inc.
And all they do is managed care work.
And ABC Inc. is not a Part B supplier. Then ABC Inc. does not have to be accredited.
Right.
Because the only companies that have to be accredited are the Part B suppliers.
Right. Huh. So you would think that would be in and outside of a CBA?
Well, I think that's both. I think I've not researched this out, and so I'll need to reserve the right to come back in and clarify if I'm wrong. But whether you're in a CBA or outside a CBA, if you contract with ABC Inc., who does not have a Part B supplier number, then I don't think that ABC Inc. has to be accredited.
Right. Mm-hmm. Would make sense.
Yeah. So it's just kind of it's really kind of it's an interesting time right now.
Do you think CMS will be issuing more clarification on this? I would have thought they would have done it by now, but
I do, and also the challenge that we have as an industry is if you look at the website for the Program Integrity Manual, PIM or PIM, you'll see the table of contents a new section having to do with regulations pertaining to all consignment arrangements, not just those with physicians and non-physician practitioners.
Yeah.
And but there has been no transmittal that goes along with that, that entry in the table of contents. And so there is a possibility that between now and March 1st, CMS might come out and give us another transmittal pertaining to all consignment arrangements, not just those with physicians and non-physician practitioners.
When you say consignment arrangement, that's another way of saying subcontracting too.
Well, no, see, a subcontract can be anything. Yeah. I mean, a subcontract can be, I want you to, I as XYZ, I want ABC to go out and deliver. I want ABC to go and set up patients. I want ABC to do other stuff for me. So a subcontract arrangement can be anything. Right. It can even be, I want ABC to do some billing for me. A consignment arrangement is also a subcontract agreement, subcontract, but it's limited to when a DME places its inventory on the premises of the sleep lab or the hospital or the physician, and then that referral source gives patient choice. Patient says, I don't care. The hospital or the doc or the sleep lab then sends the patient home with the DME company's inventory. That's what a loan consignment arrangement is, and so, or a loan arrangement is. And so while a loan arrangement or consignment arrangement is a subcontract can be many things, even over and beyond that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Lots of, interesting times.
It really is at that.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Mike. Appreciate you.
Okay, good.
You bet.